I'm not familiar.
Okay, so there's lots of water runoff on that acreage out there.
On which acreage, which parcel?
Around the 67 acres, here's the,
So if we were just having this bit, would you take care of the stream beds and all the things that need to be fixed? The servicing of this road, we spend thousands of dollars on this thing all the time. Yes, we use it, yes, we take really good care of it. We also have to take care of all the runoff on the edge of the road because it floods. So there's a lot of time and effort the airport would have to put back in. If I'm not allowed to go on there, or we're not allowed to go on there, it's going to be up to.
And you know I'll make a mess out there.
Well,
So I'm just asking the question because that's something you need to go through.
well, I think, but again, just talking about an option.
Yeah, and so I'm giving you the option, if you have that option, have that in the back of your mind.
Well, so that option would be,
We restarted it.
Oh, okay, thank you.
so the option
here's a
would,
map that shows all the green. So in addition to the lakes that FEMA shows in the FEMA flood map, so if you were to take all the wetlands away, which they're gonna be a different,
It's not started. We need to stop. Oh,
Okay.
okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's working now. I'm sorry.
So the
in
thing-
addition to that, here, Brent, you
Well,
can
the thing with that, actually, the figure map's not correct. It doesn't show half of what's on here. If I'm out there. You've got my boots up here. And you're like, oh, I do know.
So you highlight,
No, you did, there's last issue.
so are you not using that course then?
No, you use.
Because of flooding?
course, But I'm saying that the keeping of it, of making it usable.
upkeep.
Yeah, the upkeep of it, we have to make sure that we have.
Well, what I'm
Just to kind of
saying,
build the road so that it doesn't be underwater, because when it rains, it washes the road out and then it's all flooded. So just to be very specific. Just that section back there, we have all of the invoices. One time to do that section, to build it back up so that it is usable and not underwater, was $24,000. So whether we independently hire SNG or Tunnel or whoever we hire to do stuff, or Bryn's doing it, there's a significant cost. We have to pay for the dirt or pay for the lime rock. We have to use the equipment. As you guys know, we're on a shoestring budget like you guys are, right? So we have old equipment. It gets used and abused really, really hard, and it breaks. And so you have the maintenance costs, you have the fuel, you have the labor, and it's very expensive to mitigate the flooding that goes on back there.
Between Ivor and us, we have over $100,000 out there in material.
well,
Over, since I.
And I just want to roll back a second. One thing that would really help a lot is I have expressed, and other board members have expressed, not having all the information transparently disclosed and available is what is causing the heartburn. They have, I heard board members, not just in this meeting, but in many other meetings express, if, for instance, the lease was available and if all the information was disclosed, people would have had more information to make better decisions. And if the board's fiduciary responsibility, moral integrity, all of those things, responsibility is to make sure that people are fully and completely informed. I just want you to know that is the whole purpose of us being here. And so that you all, not that we're trying to take over your meeting, Scott, or control you, we just want to make sure that everyone who's making decisions and making votes has transparently and openly all the information, not selective pieces of information that they're then voting and then saying, well, we may have voted differently. And we would like all of the information, and I appreciate you sharing, and I will tell you, Bryn will tell you, everybody on the team will tell you, we are very creative people. We have to be to do what we do and to be successful. We're always looking for win-wins. If there's a section that you guys want because you can make more money on it and you want to develop it and there's a workable agreement that makes sense for everybody where you could have it, all you could do is just come, like they said, back when you had these interest ideas, whatever wording that you used, and say, hey, we want to work something out. Let's put all our cards on the table. Let's create a win-win. We would have completely been on board then. We wouldn't feel under the gun, have letters coming to us, thinking we're going on for another 25 years. now having to educate ourselves about the ultimate layout plan authority that the FAA has in their letter, and aeronautical studies, and the RPZ zone, and the ROFA zone, and all this other, which is like Chinese to me,
Find the win-win for both parties.
information.
And that's
that
what we're
I've
trying to
done-
do.
Yeah.
And
Right,
so,
but I feel like you're not acknowledging, and I find it very not goodwill to the process, and I want to have goodwill with you. You're not acknowledging that what everyone has expressed in many other board meetings, including today, is the lack of putting everything on the table completely at the time when people are discussing it is a real hindrance, not only to the board's ability to effectively vote, but to our ability to effectively understand. So I'd really like you to make a commitment that we will put everything on the table, and in the next workshop, you will allow us the opportunity, without it taking, 20 or 30 minutes, to acknowledge our request for information as it pertains to the FAA letter, so that we can create some strategies with you. Because we'll do our research too and be educated and not come in confused and lost and not understanding the ramification of these things.
so our board meetings are designed, just like the city council meetings, to address specific agenda items that need action to be taken. Anything outside of that, such as what we're doing today, that's the reason for the workshop.
Mr. Kirkland, people have told you that all the information was not provided to them. So I would just like you to acknowledge that and make a commitment that you will provide all of the information going forward.
We have provided you with all of the information that we've had.
All due respect, that is absolutely not.
How many board meetings have you been to?
Such as,
Okay, we already outlined that. So the carve out is brand new to us, but I put this in my letter, so I don't want to repeat things. I'm going to respect your time. You guys are repeating things, but we're not going to do that.
all right,
I do appreciate where we're going. I think more information is being learned on both sides.
okay. I appreciate that.
Excuse me, David, I just have a quick, very simple question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'd like the answer to my other question, how many workshops are we gonna have? I will entertain that at the end. But is this Albright and Associates of Ocala, are they specialized in doing appraisals for the FAA?
Yes.
And how difficult are these companies, if they're looking to find another appraisal company, how difficult are these people to find?
Probably pretty difficult.
I'm just asking an honest question that I thought of myself.
I don't know the answer. I really don't.
Okay.
And this is the first of this type of appraisal I've ever encountered. So I was curious to be talking to Mr. Albright about his qualifications. And as I think I reported at the outset of this workshop, he confirmed that this is his wheelhouse. He has done, I don't know how many, but many appraisals of fair market value rent for non-aeronautical land, which is what the firm's lease encompasses, non-aeronautical land, within airports of various sizes throughout at least the central part of the state. His appraisals have been accepted by the FAA, and he has testified as an expert in court proceedings as to fair market value of various parcels of airport land. So how many other guys out there are like him, I just don't know.
Have his qualifications in order to do it.
I'm sure there's a way to ascertain who those people are.
Probably
I can
share
answer
his
the question for
competitors
you.
with them, I would imagine.
I would think so.
And there might be only
If you would
7
like me
or something.
to,
I can answer the question for you, and yes, I would like you to. The question,
you don't know what I was going to
but I would.
propose to you that I would do.
But no, whatever it is, I would like it. But I just want to say, I agree that Albright is qualified. I wasn't sure, I didn't know, but as I've shared with you, my job was to get educated and to learn as much as I can to come forward and have good discussions. There are several others. We have several others already who specifically do this for airports in Lake City. They did one for Gainesville Regional Airport. So I appreciate that. We feel comfortable. We know who a couple of those people are. And Albright is very highly recommended. I take note. Again,
just to stay, I didn't think that Albright didn't do a good job. I just felt that there was a lot of other information that I would like to make sure the appraiser would have in doing the appraisal, that's all. And so you guys have agreed to us getting our own and what we're gonna pay for it at our expenses, so that'll clear that up. And then if they're different, we can discuss that.
If you will, just so we'll know, once you engage a particular appraiser, if you can get from him or her an expected, completion date, so we'll just know
No
what to
problem.
expect.
And what were you gonna suggest?
I was going to suggest that I'd be happy to call Mr. Albright and ask him if he had some other appraisers like him that he would recommend, and I would pass that on to you, but it sounds like you're ahead of me on that.
I appreciate that, thank you.
very much.
And Mr. Bunn, if I may, before I forget to ask, earlier in the meeting, you read into the record a public records request, just to make it easier for us to comply rather than having to go back through the live stream. If you could provide me a copy of what you read into the record.
In all candor, it's written in a way so it's easy for me to read if I came to that point, but I'll gladly provide you a copy afterwards.
Right, you can just email it to me if you want.
Sure. Thank you so much.
All right, so again, back to what we were discussing here, of looking at in the options of how we could reduce the overall cost of rent to the firm. And one of the ways is reducing the number of acres. Back to what you had asked Brent about the maintenance on that track. If you guys wanted just that 67 acres, then no different than what you do now.
How about 250
It's-
a month, and how much time you use that?
It's up to you as far as maintenance of what you want to do out there to maintain your track.
Not if we don't lease that piece off the edge, that's.
No, what
not-
he's saying is he wants to make sure that you guys manage the water, because otherwise, if you don't manage the water the way he has, it's gonna flood those 67 acres, and they're not gonna have value,
So that-
usable value to
So
us.
Doug's asking you to have that consideration. when-
Right.
That would be like an operational thing.
Yeah, and
Something that, like-
That would be like you'd have permission, Craig could give you permission to go over, but again,
Right.
and remember, there's a thing called the DEP and stuff like that,
Let's read it,
so, but I would think that would be more of an operational thing. You may not lease the land, but if you say, hey, we've got a drainage problem here, we need to move this, where these trees have fallen, because they're causing a dam-like effect, wouldn't we think that he could get over on the property temporarily to make a movement, and
yeah,
he wouldn't have to be leasing the
I
land?
don't take on anything that we do not lease.
Right.
Make sure that we never go anywhere. That's
Right.
not ours, ever.
Right.
And I think that's some of the things that could be worked out as well. Maybe it's more than the 67 acres.
Right.
That's just a hypothetical, here's an idea for us to discuss.
We're not trying to tell you what to do or tell you we're going to take
Right.
anything. We're just trying to identify ways that we could try to reduce the rent burden on firm and still comply with the fair market value rent requirement. And one of those is to reduce the acreage. And if you've got acreage you're not using, that would be a great candidate.
But if I'm saying that some of the acreage, because of the runoff, it becomes your responsibility, and that's something probably that's gonna cost you more money.
Understood.
So I've just given you an option that, from my point of view, being out there boosting the ground, like, yeah, we can do this, but now we can't do that.
And I think I can speak for everybody here. We appreciate that, and that's a back and forth we would welcome having, and would need to have if we were to try to identify a reduced amount of acreage. And what impact is that going to have on the firm? What impact is that going to have on the airport?
Because we do have a really good relationship between Scott and me doing things, that's kind of a really good relationship, we get things done that way.
We want that to continue.
Huh?
We want that to continue.
Yeah, oh, me too, I don't want to be this is not.
Yeah. So the two options there was parcel A, parcel B, the racetrack, being an option there with a reduced number of acreage. Let's talk about the last thing on the agenda here.
Question.
You have a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at these two pictures here, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding what I'm looking at between these two. So in this picture that depicts 67 acres within this yellow outline,
That's correct.
So it looks like, if I'm looking at this correctly, that would be, now does that encompass all, or maybe a reduced portion in this outline, and then to the end of the, almost to the end of the runway, it looks like. Am I looking at that correctly? Kind of a reduced
Yeah,
triangle.
because remember, here's the end of the runway.
Right.
So you're talking about this area just in here.
The piece we use is actually this white piece, that piece there.
Right now,
the
there at
old
least
tax.
comes out here like this.
See, it comes way on out, so it angles up.
Gas line and the
Don't need to
trees.
go that far?
It,
So this
well,
would be
see
a-
right here. Here's-
A
When it comes
reduced
across.
triangular section
Yeah.
It
from
comes
what we're
across.
looking at on
That's
this.
what he's saying, you got land lease, you really don't even, you don't even.
Yeah, we have this whole section that we can't use any of that because it's
Right.
underwater, there's a cypress stand in there, there's
Right.
trees in there.
Yeah, and it's not part of your racetrack
And it's not-
anyway
yeah,
over
it's
there,
not part of
so.
it.
Well, that might be advantageous to
So it's
not
just
lease that piece
The
then.
bit we use is this, and my concern was the runoff that runs down here, it becomes an issue. It's got hurt twice. Once when the FAA came in, when a plane crashed over the fence. I don't know if anyone was here when that happened. A plane
Yes,
crashed on the
it's,
front gate, wheels fell off. So FAA came and took all the trees down that side, so that really clogged all this up. And then the fire in '07 when we had, that also took out half these trees, and they also went down there with the bulldozer and messed it up again, second time.
That's that all up.
So, yeah.
Where's the Jeep obstacle course here on parcel A? Is it encapsulated in this,
It's on the end of
David?
the runway, if that's part.
No, I'm talking about when we're coming up to your gate,
here.
where we've given you all the culverts and the concrete.
You got some more
Is it?
acreage south of that.
Yeah, we got that, wherever the runway, does it have the runway?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
we're off, we have this little piece here at the end here. too.
Right.
So the
That's that
Jeeps
13.
are actually not shown here where they do their rock crawl.
13, there, that's the, I think y'all refer to that as your Baja.
Yeah, you call it bar, it was just kind of what it was, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just not shown on here, or is it incorporated into that
No,
parcel? A?
it's not, no, it's not, because it's a separate, yeah, it's
Okay.
separate, correct.
Okay.
And also, Scott, you had mentioned that, and I don't know if this is still happening, but you had mentioned that MHD was gonna build a hangar and might want a little dirt road at the end of the Baja course.
I want that dirt road for the RC people, just the width of that road, and to me, it would not even be on anybody's lease, it'd be like just a street, and y'all use it and they'd use it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Kind of like a service road.
He actually built it, he did a good job, he built limestone there, and I don't want to take it away from y'all, but I just want the RC people to just be able to transit through and out.
But again, what we're wanting to do is help you guys in reducing what you would have to pay in rent by reducing that total acreage so that you could still have use of everything that you need to use. But there's no sense you paying on all of this additional acres, especially in that parcel B, that's all timber.
Well, can we, so there's,
And if you had to go out there and,
so,
Just don't be antagonistic. Just don't be antagonistic.
no, I'm not gonna be antagonistic. I'm not there yet. Tell me you all want to get there. So on some of the other tracks we have, we just have the trail, but you have the forest, which you do, and that's stuff we don't have to lease.
On which parcel?
On the yellow parcel.
The parcel B section?
Hey, we're open. If we can reduce that section again that you're not using, let's talk about it.
Well, that would be good for us.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, right.
Okay.
Well, if you guys could propose what it is that you're asking for, maybe we need to have our appraiser look at just that piece, so we have fair market value on what we're actually going to be renting. So is that something you
I
can
need to be
provide?
very clear, because I want to make expectations, and this is not from the phone call. Nothing has changed with I don't want anyone leaving here with any expectations that we're open to doing anything right now. We are open to working open and collaboratively and discussions and everything else.
all it is
But, you know,
discussions,
it's, exactly. And if-
discussing options.
If there's stuff that's good for both parties, that's what we want, and I want to be very clear. I don't mean to be antagonistic or anything, or disrespect for anything. I ask again, let's be open, and I want to foster that. I want to get back to the way it was right before this meeting. I was excited to come here and talk to y'all, especially at the
You want to
conversation.
go back to
with Jim
1950.
yesterday. Especially the conversation with Jim yesterday. I want to be open and transparent with you all. So I want to get back there, but I also do want to, again, set the expectation. We're open to talk, everything else. But, you know, we're talking about here, give us proposals, whatever, we're open to talk, but I want to make sure there's no expectations of all of a sudden jumping.
So along those lines, so Ms. Hines, what you just asked, what we would like for you to hear from you guys, because maybe you didn't know that you had the option to reduce your number of acres down to what you actually need to do your business. We're great with that. So,
Because we thought we had a 50-year, you know.
No, we do have a 50. I want to be very clear.
Well,
We have a,
we thought that was gonna
Very
be
clear.
acknowledged.
okay.
Abundantly clear, thank you.
Yeah.
so,
Okay.
so now that you know that, you know, come back to us and say, well, look, here's the number of acres we need in parcel A, and here's what we need in parcel B. Or if you don't want parcel B, I mean, that's what we're open to hearing from you, because again, the whole point was, you don't need all the trees. You don't need to be paying for trees out there when you're just running on a course.
Well, I just want
And
to clarify, there's flooding issues, and we are the people who take care of those flooding issues so that the course is usable. So it's not as simple as the way that you're saying it. And also, just like you all are not voting today, we are not able to vote today on what happened. So it really does help that these are, to understand what it is you want back. So,
But also, like we said, it could be an operational situation. So let's say you reduced your footprint, and I don't care where it's at. I think we have a good enough working relationship with Bren, and like I say, sometimes it benefits, it definitely benefits down there, the approach to runway 11. But why wouldn't he just be able to come to us on non-leased land and say, Craig, I need to go in here and move. There's some beavers that built a little bit of a dam here. We could probably do something like that. Flexibility, that's what we're trying to do here.
right, and I think that's what we want to do, is find out what will help the firm be able to stay here. Because I'll say it again, we want you guys to stay here. So,
well, what would help us?
What would help us,
We need to
yeah.
let them get on with their meeting,
I
all due
agree.
respect.
Well-
So unless-
what would help us though is for us to just have send our renewal and keep doing what we're doing. I mean,
Okay.
So, yeah.
all right, so the last thing here was, and we discussed this briefly already, but a proposed phased escalation over a timeframe. Again, I think that gets back to both of us saying, well, like we put on the spreadsheet, so here's a 5-year period. I think that makes more sense than 10. But you guys may come back and say, well, we can't afford that 5.5% or 11.4%, whatever it is, with a phased escalation, or whether you even want to consider a phased escalation. So again, that was just an option that's out there for all of us to be aware of, and then just seeing what's feasible. So that was the reason for that particular one there. There's, you know, number of years, what's that percent look like, escalation. And the last one, as far as proposed a combination of B and C, again, I think it just gets back to us all being flexible and figuring out, okay, what's best in the long term for both parties. And is it a combination or is it just one? So that's the options that we have on our agenda today. Dealing with specifically fair market value, and with the idea that potentially we could reduce that overall cost by a change of acreage that's actually rented. Any other comments?
Just what do you want the land?
Well,
We don't, in our master plan now,
Yes.
for example, along parcel B, if you were to look on our master plan and on the ALP specifically, what you'll find, not sure if it's depicted, there is a new taxiway that would actually go into that flooded area, Brent, that you're talking about, those ditches that parallels that runway. The master plan already has in there a new taxiway for that side of the runway. What's behind your racetrack, further to the north, northeast, that's timber conservation that we have there now. So,
Right, but you had said, okay, you had said in a meeting that, Clay County and the Guard and other tenants had interest in that back section. So what's the interest? What would they like to do with it? What are some of the ideas?
the conversations that we'd had with Clay County Economic Development Partnerships was they were looking, they got a grant to market 100 acres. Actually, the acreage that they're looking at marketing is not in that area. It's actually over more toward our corporate hangars. With respect to the Florida State Guard that we met with a couple of weeks ago, we're looking at 44, 45 acres for them that's right adjacent and behind our corporate hangar. Again, that's in Clay County. It's not even a part of that. So we're just looking to the future because we know in our master plan, there are things that are already set there as far as extension of taxiways or actually new taxiways that will access runway 1129. And in the master plan also, that's an area for future development for hangars or bulk hangars type development.
Yes, so that would be the thing too.
A lot too, because if there's a runway extension, it would be nice to know what the new RPZ zones are gonna be and how that would impact this area.
And it's listed on the ALP already, but here's the reality. The FAA is very reluctant to do runway extensions. In fact, we have one for our main runway, 523. They have specific guidelines that deal with number of operations, takeoff and landings,
Size of
a
aircraft.
a lot of requirements. And in our discussion, that master plan is kind of like a wish list that we would like to see that extension. Certainly doesn't mean that the FAA is going to fund it. So we have to put it on there as part of the master plan, and it's a 20-year plan. So it's listed for both 523. And here's the interesting thing.
When you
The
say 523, what's
The
that?
main
The
runway.
runway.
Yeah. So the FAA will fund improvements on that runway. The FAA will not fund the other runway, 1129, our secondary runway. Anything done over there would be FDOT. That shows an extension as well, but again, it falls back under the same parameters the FAA requires of all of the requirements that you have to meet in order to qualify for even moving forward with any serious discussion about that happening. So those RPZs, though, are reflected even on the extension portion. It will show the current for the runway as it is now, and with the runway extended, then what that new RPZ
You can
would
see
look
it
like.
right up there on that map, but essentially what you're saying is that it's something that could potentially be one day, but may never, ever be.
That's correct.
The actual feasibility of even extending runway 523 is problematic. In
Well,
the
I'm not
simple
talking about that
sense.
one, I'm talking about 1129.
1129.
Yeah, the one that
Well,
would
even
affect them.
1129. So to understand, runway 5 is the only RNAV approach, meaning instrument approach in inclement weather. That's also the runway that can handle the heaviest airplane. Typically, the heaviest airplanes are the fastest airplanes. So here's where your hurdle comes up. Camp Landing's restricted zone comes to the middle of Lake Lowry. And I've talked to some of these corporate jet pilots, they even have a problem with the runway length as it is trying to get in around there. I don't see it ever happening. We might extend that end, but I don't think this end can be extended, not practically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's being listed as a compliance issue
Right.
on something that may never, ever even come to be.
No.
No,
like-
but we still need
But you
to
have
be
development.
cautious about encumbrances into that safety zone.
So Lorena, so at least from my thinking, so this is 1129 over here. This is where y'all got the dirt track back there that they use for paramilitary training and for fun. It would make no sense for us to come all the way down to the end of runway 11 and start building hangars there. But we've run out of space along here to build hangars, basically. if we did, the only available space we've got is where the RC club is over there right now, which Rockland's already kind of laid claim to. So the next logical place is right down here on this end.
You mean Cloud 9 or whatever when you say?
Yeah, the Cloudbusters.
Okay, that's the, with MHD.
Yeah, that's where their
I just want to make
campus is
sure I'm
gonna be.
tracking the same
Yeah,
things.
they'll be outside of where your skid track ends. I don't even know where their lease will pick up. It's gonna be a little bit further down, but
Got it.
as far as future expansion, the only place that really makes sense is down here. Because FAA or DOT would have to make a taxiway over here. Why would we come all the way down here to the beginning of that track? So you'd still have use. Let's say we needed that space for 2 hangars, and depending upon how far back they go, you'd have all this track still here to use.
Yeah, the other end floods too.
Well, they'll
The other end
build that up.
floods a lot, they don't do anything there.
The FAA's got a lot of dirt.
And just for information, y'all have probably heard it, but we do have a project in our JASIP, which is a construction in progress type program that it goes from this year through 2030. A stormwater project is in that. I don't remember exactly what year it is, but it will address all of the infield issues with respect to drainage and fix it. Yep.
It'll drain all over there to your track.
All right, so the last thing here,
Get them to come there and look.
the last thing here is other options,
Wait,
and
could you repeat what you just
I'm just kidding about that, Lorena, don't jump. No, I'm just saying, they would look at, because, some of the drainage goes down into Crystal Lake down here, some of it goes into Crystal Lake back here, some goes over there to 18. But where the culverts are busted out there where those wild crepe myrtles are growing through? They're talking about tearing all that out and putting new drainage ducts
I've changed a
to
lot of
move the
culverts
water
out
away
there
from the field.
that are broken from the Second World War, we actually fixed them.
Yeah.
and I think what will happen as well, just because of new regulations and controls that I'm sure there'll be holding ponds out here because of, again, I don't know this, I'm not an engineer, mechanical civil that does that kind of work, but I don't know of too many places that allow you to drain water off of anything unless it goes into a water sewer. It doesn't go into lakes or holding pond, it gets to a holding pond, so, but that's going to happen in the near future. So I won't close with other options, and that's just simply for us to, again, digest what we've talked about here. Are there some other options and combinations with these or something completely different? And we may hear that with the appraisal. So I want us to be thinking along those lines as well. None of this is set in concrete. It's all for discussion, options, get our minds thinking about what we could do. Mr. Dodgenay.
Yeah, just a thought here. In the appraisal that Mr. Albrecht did, so he came to the conclusion of a fair market value rate of the acreage at $312 to $351 per acre in his report, as he broke it down. And as I'm looking at a potential phased rate to come up to or closer to a fair market value rate, the annual rate appears to come close to like 157 an acre. Am I calculating that right?
I'm not following you on what you're trying to do there.
Well, that's what I
Right.
calculated earlier, but
Yeah.
what he's saying is we can come up with we might say, for instance, we don't agree with going up to that whole 90,000. Maybe we
Right,
come
right.
in at a lower price.
Yeah.
Right.
But maybe we take some of the acreage back and not charge that whole 90,000. And maybe we charge 50% of it and go up in phases.
Right. And
It's
that-
ours to
That makes
decide. And I
sense.
think the FAA would just want to see both parties agreeing to move forward in something that is constructive and that can work.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Because we do want them, the FAA, to realize that the firm is a valuable tenant and they have an impact on our local communities, positive impact. And so, we're going to go to bat for them as best we can.
Sure.
And so, all right, with that, I think we'll close our workshop. I want to say thank you to Mr. Bond,
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Rena, thank you all from the firm. Vice Mayor, Christine, thank you for being here.
Are we gonna have another workshop?
We will,
Another one now?
we will send out a notice.
Cheers.